The two zombies encountered someone and bit them. Old memories haunt the girl. So she hates zombies, making sure to kill each one she sees. She widened her eyes. Her face became unusually angry. When Jiang-tu heard that, he fell silent, not daring to say a word. The group leader now asked Jiang-tu what he was going to say earlier. But Jiang-tu was scared out of his mind, so he waved his hand and denied it, making the group leader think that this guy must have said something nonsense. To avoid making the group leader suspicious, he changed the subject and asked her what extraordinary academy was. In short, it's an academy that specializes in training how to handle zombies. It has been more than 1,000 years since the zombie outbreak caused the world to plunge into chaos. But 2 centuries later, in order for humanity to return to the way it was, people created this school. In the school, there are everything from geniuses, from martial arts, shooting to scientists. All of them are trained with the sole purpose of eliminating the disgusting zombies. Jiang-tu was stunned. He remembered that he had become a zombie since the beginning of the outbreak. His birth was even earlier than the extraordinary academy. Jiang-tu has maintained an unchanged posture. He absent-mindedly thought, I'm 1,000 years old. The group leader finished speaking and moved the person to sit on the wheelchair. Normally, if not in combat, a wheelchair is her main means of transportation. The group leader didn't forget to tell Jiang-tu to report tomorrow because he was taking him in through the back door. From the beginning, Jiang Si did not want to get involved with people in the academy. It was the group leader who dragged his head away, so he was unconvinced and intended to protest. But the current situation did not leave her alone. The group leader seemed to understand Jiang Si's intentions. As soon as she sat in a wheelchair and left, she turned around and warned Jiang-tu not to try to escape. This is no ordinary school. After registering, if you do not study, you will be thoroughly investigated. Also, my name is Tu Lang. Tomorrow, Hugh will take you to visit the academy. After speaking, the group leader pushed the cart and left, leaving Jiang-tu sitting there wondering who Hugh was. It turns out that Hugh is none other than the active girl in the sniper team, always interjecting in every matter. The next morning, she met Jiang Si outside the academy. With a bright smile, hello mask brother, how are you? For Jiang-tu, this was the first time in his life he had come into contact with so many strangers. Before, he only went to save people and then ran away, never staying to talk to anyone. He was mumbling to himself, turned around and asked, who are you? Hugh was startled. From a warm smile, the girl's face turned dirty. We had met before in the explosion-proof car incident. Jiang-tu scratched his face, seriously remembering, and later recognized Hugh. He raised his hand sideways, wondering, I remember when you were so small. Hugh looked at him talking about her height, so she had to clench her hands to control herself from jumping over and punching him. This man's name is a small one. You shouldn't pick up on such trivial matters. Thinking clearly, Hugh ran to the school stadium and urged Jiang-tu to go there quickly. There would be a test later. Upon checking, Jiang-tu asked Hugh in bewilderment, but she did not answer, and went straight inside. The two of them went together to the large stadium. Jiang-tu asked a very stupid question. Do you still have to take an exam to enter this school? Of course. Which school doesn't take exams? This school is not like a normal school. They will train students in basic skills to fight zombies and will take a test after a week. At this academy, the training of talented people is very harsh. The world record for running 100 meters is 9 minutes 58 seconds. Students must run 9 minutes 57 seconds to be considered successful. Hearing that, Jiang-tu immediately expressed confusion. Do extraordinary students do more extraordinary things than ordinary people? Understanding besides wondering what he thought the academy was like before? Jiang-tu broke his head. He did not hesitate to answer. I thought it was a mental hospital. In the stadium, a bright red banner was hung. Below, there were too many academies gathered here to count. Each genius has a different talent. But the common thing is that everyone looks murderous with a visual interface that shows they are not ordinary people. With Hu's body, she basically couldn't squeeze into this large group of people. She climbed up on Jiang-Tu's neck and sat down to see more clearly, but she wasn't much taller than other people. It was difficult to only see the heads of people in front of her. If that motherfucker is trash, then stay behind. I don't know who poked the venom, but the scarred man in front saw Hu faint and immediately turned around and slapped him in the face. Hu also didn't like it, cursing that big guy straight to his face. Why are you being so aggressive? Jiang-Tu just wanted to get out of this place. He wondered that he had lifted planes in the human area a lot before. So why did he still have to compete? Hu told him that in this academy, there were many people who could lift planes. But because this was a place established by the government, it had to be absolutely confidential. One more thing. People at the Extraordinary Academy don't watch the news, so they don't know who Zhang Si is. On the stairs, there was the sound of footsteps. A man with only one good leg stepped up majestically and said, "Shut up for me." But it was so quiet down there. God waited for him to approach the mic and clear his throat for a few seconds before starting his speech. His hair and beard were white. One eye was gone and many scars proved many years of war. Dressed like a military commander, solemnly clasping his hands behind him, he introduced himself as Tran, then as the leader of the education group. After that, Tran then proudly mentioned the achievements of the academy from its inception until now, hoping that the new generation can be better than its predecessors. Before he could finish his sentence, a voice from the crowd called out, "Teacher." "No." "Group leader." Then, it turned out that it was Jiang-Tu who was shyly in the crowd, hesitantly asking Tran then, "What if this school has zombies mixed in?" He replied to Zhang Si fluently, and without any hesitation, of course tearing his body into 8 pieces. Hang a zombie's head in front of the gate to deter everyone. And even put a bow on it. Shape bow. Jiang-Tu was surprised. He was very curious about what this punishment was. Hearing him ask, Tran then laughed quite a bit and said, "Cut that baby bird." Young man, just thinking about that scene, he felt the pain to the bone. Sweat pouring like a shower. His face distorted like a going through that punishment. Then under the fierce sunlight, the 100 meters sprint race began. The students took their starting positions, everyone wearing sports clothes to show off their strong bodies. Only Jiang-Tu was wearing a tight jacket, showing an expression of not knowing who this was or where I was. As soon as the gun whistle is pulled, the race begins. The runners rushed past the shooter like a gust of wind, causing him to almost fly from where he was standing. Everyone drove at full speed. The important thing was not to reach the standard score, but everyone wanted to set a record. So fast that Jiang-Tu felt dazed. 3 seconds later, one person ran all the way around the field and the others also reached the finish line one after another. The first person's name was Go Tham Huck. In just 3 seconds, he crossed the finish line of 100 meters. Valid. Jiang-Tu ran so hard that he saw people running and saw his cheeks and his whole body became numb. The next item is to shoot the scarecrow. Jiang-Tu held the gun and looked worried, because Tran then kept walking behind explaining, shooting is a basic way to fight against being attacked. Just like that, Jiang-Tu suddenly stopped being dragged to this school to learn how to fight zombies. Every day, in addition to the zombie theory subjects, there are all kinds of training things as well. Suddenly, someone in the group didn't aim but instead raised a gun and shot. He glanced over and saw Hu covering his eyes and confidently firing 2 shots without looking. Hu's trained bullets flew to the target, accurately splitting its head and body into 2 directions. Just 2 shots were enough to kill all the scarecrows at the training ground. Blindfolded, as expected, the girl is the leader in this subject. Jiang-Tu looked at the powerful little girl and couldn't help but be scared when he thought of her shooting at zombies. He agreed. The gun in his hand was like a flower branch. Looking in the other direction, he saw a practitioner brutally stabbing the blind man in the back with a stick. Once again, Jong Tu felt goosebumps when thinking about the fate of his fellow humans and himself if they discovered that there were zombies mixed in. Not stopping there, weight throwing started again. This is a subject that requires physical strength and flexible arm muscles. They must be able to throw 100 meters. And if they throw less than 100 meters, they must be more than 80 meters to be able to catch it. It is indeed a difficult subject, with quite a few people being eliminated. Just a little distance but less than 80 meters still fails. Next group. Tran then shouted loudly. Just like that, Jiang Tu went to a place where there was a group of people that he himself called a bunch of psychopaths. In order not to attract the attention of others, he always controls his strength. Just enough to get through the ring. However, Tran then had his eyes on him. His exam results are so Canadian, they are always just right. Nothing more or less than a few. Yet Tu Lang took the risk of bringing him in from the back door. She also asked Tran then to pay attention to Jiang Tu because he was very strong. He pondered for a moment. Perhaps that guy was intentionally playing with him. He continued to throw javelin with the psychopaths. The young pioneer stepped back with one leg wide. But he used all his strength to throw the javelin into the sky. The spear flew quickly and hit its target, crashing straight into a strangely shaped scarecrow made to resemble a typical zombie. When Jiang Tu saw this scene, he was silent, scared but did not dare to scream. After that, the javelin just skewered two other scarecrows, then broke the fence and flew straight out of the javelin throwing area. It flew to a sign on the street, and then stopped completely. Passers-by's eyes widened in panic, not knowing where these scarecrows came from and hung on the sign. At the academy, Tran then looked at the results, smacked his lips and traveled 32 kilometers, aiming at the exact target. The person after Go Tham Huck is Jiang Tu. When the two passed each other, for some reason he picked him up and wanted to burn his face. Jiang Tu didn't pay any attention. He timidly stepped forward to do his part. Holding the javelin, he also made the same movements as the young man just now, but intentionally moved very superficially and did not use all his strength. Tran then stood there observing all this time, then couldn't bear it anymore and suddenly shouted, "Wait!" The onlookers, including Hugh, all turned their heads to look. Tran then first asked again to make sure. "Are you Jiang Tu?" introduced by the leader of the Dao group, Tu Lang? It's okay for Jiang Tu to stay silent and not answer. The old man holding the screen containing the information continued in a serious voice. She said you are very strong, but your achievements are only at the standard level. Do you really have that strength or are you deliberately playing with me? The group of people looked at him curiously. It would be terrible for Tran then to personally come and ask. Looking at the pale face of this strange name, he suddenly remembered. The person who asked me the first question was you, right? Hearing this, Jiang Tu was startled as if a thief had been caught in the act. Faced with group leader Tran Then's constant questions, he didn't know how to answer without being exposed. Tran then did it again. He leaned close to Jiang Tu's face, using his unblemished eye to look straight at him, making him sweat profusely. Everyone here wants to show off their full strength. Could it be that you are a zombie? This question pierced Zhang Si's heart. Not knowing whether this statement was true or false, he jumped up, fluffed like a hedgehog and immediately denied Tran Then's words. I'm human. Having said that, Tran Then never thought he was a disguised zombie. So he threw the screen to the young man. Showing me all your power. In order not to make Jiang Tu lose face, Tran then added, I don't ask you to be as strong as your friend just now. But at least you have to pass 3 kilometers by 1/10 to be considered valid. If he couldn't pass that threshold, he would be considered deceitful to the senior group leader and sentenced to death as a spy. Jiang Tu was startled. Recall that when he was chased, most of the people hunting him were from the academy. He did not want to become an oil lamp, nor did he want to become a perpetual motion machine. He was tortured to the point where he could neither live nor die. With determination in mind, throw as much as you can. Go Tham Huck crossed his arms and waited. for him until he was tired. Hugh did not speak. He also wanted to know what his strength was. Jiang-tu then stood in a standard position, leaning back. The preparation position was completely different from before. He remembered the times when he overcame his weightlifting levels. At those times, he was so fiery with determination that his eyes turned red. What is the goal? Even the scene where I tried my best to lift each dumbbell. His foot stepped down hard, causing the ground to crack. And the feeling at that moment arose intensely. Now Zhang Si will do the same to throw with all his might. His aura blew the javelin thrower away, leaving him stunned. I haven't thrown it yet, but I'm still holding it like that. Jiang-tu waved his hand. The wind blew up like a hurricane. The ground cracked in large cracks. The javelin was thrown straight out of the earth and crashed through the satellite floating in space. Without slowing down, it continued to rush towards the moon at the speed of light. The students at school were blown away by his power. With just one throw like that, Jiang-tu almost destroyed an entire area. Seeing this, Tranden opened his mouth and could only utter 2 words. While the other students scattered. That's because he didn't know that the javelin's vision was now pointing to Hang Thoi's moon. From a solid sphere, the spacecraft orbited through the moon, leaving a large hole. Jiang-tu on the ground had not yet regained all his strength. His eyes were bloodshot. Now, if anyone wants to go to the moon, come here and I'll give you a ride. A moment later, the practitioners fell from the air and crashed to the ground. Jiang-tu still stood looking up at the sky. Nothing more than his coat fluttering. That was the first time he saw the moon clearly visible in broad daylight. Jiang-tu stood there looking at the strange scene without noticing that Tranden and the other students were surprised by the power just now. Hugh rushed forward. She shouted excitedly. SNH is so powerful. Did you see? Just now the teacher also stood still. His teacher was still speechless as if he didn't understand human language. Hugh asked again. How far did you throw it just now? Jiang-tu could only break his head. He casually replied that he just threw it into the sky. In the past, objects in space lying idle were also hit by bullets. The nearby meteorites were sweating bullets when they saw a strange object rushing out from the Earth and smashing the entire moon. At this time, Jiang-tu held the results in his hand, thinking that after finishing the exam, he could go home. What? Go home? Hugh put on a scornful face. What are you kidding? Later, he became the group's leader. Seeing that he still didn't understand what that meant, Hugh angrily stomped around. Do you know how powerful the group leader is? Jiang-tu did not respond, but his bewildered face showed it all. Hugh helplessly explained that a group leader not only commanded one side's army, but could also use tanks, artillery and aircraft at will. And they also had the right to use nuclear warheads. In addition, Tulang also manages a city with a population of tens of millions of people, and the city's chairman is just a tool to manage people's lives. As Hugh spoke, her index finger pointed to the sky to show that she was erudite. Jiang-tu found the group leader to be ordinary because he also had his own city. But no one believed what he said. Afterwards, Hugh led Jiang-tu to the biotechnology area to tour the laboratory. As she walked, she introduced this place as a place specializing in weapons research for the academy with a proud expression, calling it the logistics department. Jiang-tu looked around. Suddenly, something caught his attention. It was a photo of the Mad Doctor's family. The photo includes 4 people, but the most notable are the doctor and the guy wearing glasses. At this time, they are still very young. Understanding immediately, he quickly introduced the doctor's name as Kiet Min. Previously, Kiet Min was the leader of the biotechnology group. However, after his wife died, in order to fulfill her wishes, he used humans and zombies to do illegal and perverted experiments. In the end, Kiet Min was removed from the academy. Still wanted. Kill immediately without asking. Suddenly, from inside, a girl wearing thick glasses and a white blouse spoke up and said, "Are there any new classmates? Did you understand and pass the test?" Looking at it, I know someone knows this girl. The orphan nodded cheerfully. Jiang too didn't know who he met. So Hugh quickly answered. This person is an orphan who was raised by Dr. Kiet Min before. Currently, she is the representative of the group leader. Calling the two of them to the desk. The girl smiled and asked what equipment they needed. Just waiting to hear that. Hugh's eyes lit up and replied. I need a suit that can carry more weapons. Preferably the kind that can carry a magic wand under the crotch. The type that can be pulled out and pointed directly at the enemy's face, killing them instantly. Hearing such an idea, she was not surprised at all. She only commented that it seemed like Hugh was already preparing to join the gun group. What about the other classmate? It took a while for Jiang too was dumbfounded and pointed at his face. Asking me? Standing closer to see his appearance clearly, the girl was momentarily afraid that even her glasses would fall out. Screaming loudly at the living dead, Hugh quickly explained that Jiang too was not a zombie but only wore a zombie mask. The obvious truth is that only this nearsighted girl knows. Jiang too trembled so much that he didn't dare say a word even though she screamed into the red-haired girl's ear. Do you think I'm stupid or just stupid? Of people growing on their eyebrows. Obviously it's a zombie. To convince the girl, Hugh said that she had also seen Jiang too's face just now. Looking at Hugh's sincere eyes, she half believed and half doubted but still chose to believe. As for that young man, he stood with his neck bowed. Just don't kill me. Adjusting his glasses, his white hair returned to its original serious look. Zhang Si, do you have any requests for weapons? He did not ask for more weapons, just asked the girl to make him an unbreakable suit. Because every time he finished work he would come home naked. The people are already strange. The equipment requirements are even more strange. Everyone wants good weapons. This guy just needs a fireproof suit. But there's nothing here, so I don't refuse Zhang Si. She typed information into the computer. One person wanted to be able to store more things. The other person didn't like the ceiling. At the sword club, Tiu Vo was kneeling on the floor, his hands resting on his knees in silence. A beautiful girl dressed in women's clothing blatantly sat in front of him. She put her legs up on the table, her hands clasped behind her head, her face covered by a book. He is very strong, Tiu Vo said timidly, thinking about the scene where he rushed to Jiang Tu. But in less than a blink of an eye, his eyes turned dark and he was hung on the electricity pole. Unconscious. Lifting the book, revealing a plump red lip, she asked in a low voice. Did your group leader lose? Tiu Vo nodded, feeling that even Tu Lang was no match for that strange guy. Only then did the girl stand up, put the book on the table, and move forward. Tiu Vo's words stimulated her curiosity. Bending down to question him with an unusually seductive face, she simply wanted to know what his name was. The girl's face looked intently, causing Tiu Vo to blush and retreat in fear. After questioning that person's name, she was satisfied and ordered someone to let Tiu Vo go. That spirited girl is the leader of the swordsmanship group. Lan Ky. Lan Ky and Tu Lang, the leader of that Dao group, are now bitter rivals, because the Dao group managed more people in the city than the search group. Lan Ky was always jealous and hated Tu Lang to death. As for the little martial artist, he confessed to Jiang Tu. Seeing Lan Ky leave, he silently wished Jiang Tu good luck. At this time, at the Phenomenal Academy, theoretical education about zombies was taking place. The teacher on the board explains the likes and weaknesses of the undead. Besides human meat, they also like to eat chicken eggs, mainly taking advantage of zombies' preferences and the weakness of their heads to create traps. Learning this theory makes non-mundane people tired of listening to it. In contrast to everyone, Jiang Tu was very diligent in taking notes. Curious, Hugh leaned closer and asked him what he was doing, because he was too focused. The young man accidentally blurted out, I was copying it down to tell everyone at home. Hugh was stunned, not understanding what the point of telling her family about zombies was. While studying hard, the school's loudspeaker announced an invitation for first-year students to gather in the gymnasium. Hugh was surprised because they had already gathered last time, not knowing what the academy wanted to do this time. At the gym, more and more people gathered. Jiang-tu and Hugh leisurely ate ice cream while going down, looking like they were leisurely going to the festival to watch. Tu Lang glanced at the two people behind their leisurely appearance and seriously reminded them. You two were introduced by me. Don't cause trouble for me. This is a very important professional association. Suddenly, Hugh turned around and asked Jiang-tu. Even though you wear a mask, you can still eat ice cream. The innocent question made Jiang-tu startled, panicking and explaining all sorts of things. The two were so playful that they didn't know that Lan Ky and his assistant were watching them from afar. The assistant whispered to Lan Ky. Jiang-tu didn't look very smart, nor did he look powerful. She didn't discuss him with her subordinates, just smiled, and ordered the manager to go before me to greet him. When everyone had gathered quite a bit, from a corner of the stadium, a group of people opened the door and walked out. Among them, the most notable was a handsome man with a large scar on the left side of his chin. Following him were not human-like shapes wearing iron masks. As soon as he entered, everyone respectfully bowed their heads and shouted loudly, greeting the group leader. Seeing Jiang-tu standing there stiffly, Hugh stood next to him, held his head down and whispered, "What are you doing? Quickly lower your head." That's the leader of the mechanical life group. Zhang Si didn't want to cause trouble, so he forced the people around him to bow down. The leader of the group of mechanical beings passed by and saw Lan Ky, and without any politeness, asked indifferently, "What are you doing here? Don't bother me." She wasn't angry. She just smiled faintly, turned around and left. The assistant standing next to him asked Lan Ky what his intentions were. "If we leave here now, we won't have a chance to talk to that masked guy. We have to let Jiang-tu figure it out later. Here, the leader of the group of mechanical beings is stronger, and Lan Ky believes that whoever is stronger has the right." Contrary to his hateful attitude when meeting Lan Ky, this group leader saw Tu Lang and immediately came forward to put his hand on her shoulder, speaking softly, saying it was hard for her. Her attitude was also moderate, causing the other two to eat ice cream and chat endlessly. "It feels strange. Isn't there something going on between Tu Lang and that guy?" Hugh didn't pay much attention, thinking that Jiang-tu liked Tu Lang, so he was just jealous. He asked the group leader again if he was strong. "Do you remember that photo you saw earlier in the biology room? The leader of the machine life group is one of Kiet Min's last human research group. But he is not a scientist, but the creature being researched. Among countless experiments, he was the only one who survived. After crazy Dr. Kiet Min was wanted, he founded the machine life group. Based on his strong strength, he managed a city of up to 50 million people. For 10 years there was not a single zombie, and if there was, it was wiped out." Hugh spoke admiringly, not knowing that Zhang Si's face had turned pale, which was not good news for the living dead at all. Next, the leader of the group went up to the podium to speak. He didn't mince words but immediately asked the first-year students to help him with something. Everyone stood below in deep thought, wondering why a leader would come and ask for help from the group. The first year's nose is still not clean. He looked at a robot subordinate and ordered him to open the image. From the robot's eyes, the image of a prisoner was projected into the air. That person was none other than the captured spy who dropped the bomb. His face was swollen and his body had bruises all over after being beaten a few times. But he still laughed. Jiang-tu, standing below, immediately realized and spoke up harshly. "It was this person who launched the nuclear warhead to explode me." Through the words of the group leader, this spy was Dr. Kiet Min's confidant. Zhang Si seems to have understood that the zombie apocalypse is over. There are only humans fighting each other. Hugh nodded to show his agreement, then sighed loudly. A group of people who were full and indifferent. "We tried to force him to reveal where Dr. Kiet Min was hiding, but he refused to tell. The 2nd to 5th year students all tried it, but it didn't work. Any punishment from hanging, stabbing, Bowing, being suffocated with water, or having his eyes gouged out, could not make this guy open his mouth. In general, every method I can think of has been tried without success. Coming to this country, we can only rely on first-year students. He offered a very generous reward. If anyone could get the spy to reveal Kiet Min's location, that person would be promoted to deputy team immediately. Hearing this, the people below were in an uproar. There were over 100 people dressed as eunuchs in palace fighting movies under the group leader alone. For the first-year students, it was truly a good thing that could only be dreamed of. They all raised their hands to ask permission to try. The group leader immediately pointed to one of them. The interrogation room was in the back, so he naturally went in to work. But 2 hours later, the sun had already risen, and as many people as they could think of were carried out. They burned incense for their ancestors, hypnotized them, and even chanted sutras, but all were useless. With all these nonsense methods, Tu Lang was extremely bored. Hugh and Jiang-tu didn't know how many ice creams they had eaten, so they asked the impulsive brother next to Jiang-tu if he could make him confess. Unlike previous training sessions, Jiang-tu held the ice cream in his mouth and answered confidently, "I can make him sing." Hugh's eyes immediately lit up. Really? Without waiting for Jiang-tu to react, she immediately raised her hand and waved repeatedly. There is a friend here whose name I can catch. He confessed. A few dozen people have tried going up so far. Anyone who isn't bored yet will come up. The group leader invited him up immediately. Hearing that he was invited, Jiang-tu immediately left, making Hugh not understand why he normally didn't like it. Why are you so proactive in attracting attention this time? Jiang-tu worked without letting the eyes of the people around him see him. Not even the gazes of the other two people. He only wanted to answer why the undead under him were very obedient but often lost control. Hopefully the other spy will provide useful clues. In the white interrogation room behind the stage, there was only a table and chair, chained tightly to the spy. Seeing him, the spy didn't care and turned his left eye to reject him. Just another nonsense person. Kua turned his face away, clearly showing his dislike, but Jiang-tu was in no hurry to speak. He just came in front of the spy and stared. If they didn't speak up, I cursed. There's no one left at the academy anymore. Just send some brats to deal with me. Give up. I won't sell out Min. Jiang-tu didn't say a word but directly scratched the spy. A small wound just torn open on his arm made the spy confused. Then he burst out, laughing. Ha ha ha. Are you using pictures on me? Your strength is a bit weak. My friend, don't be afraid. Use a little more strength. My friend. Jiang-tu's face remained expressionless. He glanced at the spy and suddenly spoke. Stand up. Suddenly, the spy stood up unconsciously. His previously stubborn appearance no longer there. Witnessing this scene, Tu Lang and Hugh were surprised beyond words. The group leader was equally startled when he saw it. It turned out that Zhang Si did not intend to torture, but the initial cut opened the way for strange viruses to enter the spy's body. In a few short seconds, zombie viruses follow the bloodstream straight to the brain and control the spy's consciousness. His eyes slowly turned blue. The zombie virus had successfully taken over his body, and thus answered any question Zhang Si asked. What's your name? My name is Tiu Kai. The spy seemed lost and answered without hesitation. It was so simple that it surprised the observers. Team leader. He can control him. That person's thoughts. Next, Jiang-tu asked him if he was Dr. Kiet Min's confidant. He knew everything, right? As expected, the spy nodded and said that he knew most of Kiet Min's story. Jiang-tu asked the question he had always wondered about for a long time. In the past, the zombies in Y City were always very docile. Why did they lose control? The spy said unconsciously. Because Mr. Min sprayed medicine on that city. The zombies will immediately become hot when they smell the medicine. And that way they can be controlled. We ordered them to attack humans. From there we got the combat data of extraordinary people to deal with them. Zhang Si was silent. Why did you guys do that? However, Kiet Min wisely did not reveal it to the spy. So he could only know that the doctor was doing something very great. He told us to control zombies to slaughter humans in order to collect combat data of extraordinary people. Outside, everyone was tense, listening to every word they both said. Next, Jiang-tu asked again about where Kiet Min was hiding. It turns out that Kiet Min is 500 meters underground in the ruins of H City. Then ordered the spy to turn around. He whispered a zombie voice that only the audience could hear, so that no one would know he was talking to Tiu Kai. It's because Tom went to intensive remedial school that he was able to translate it for you guys. You guys really make other people hate you. I injected a suicide virus into your brain. You can deal with it yourself. The full moon spy did as Zhang Si said. He replied yes in the voice of a zombie. At Kiet Min's secret base, literally 500 meters underground in H City, the guy wearing glasses eagerly reported that the spy had confessed everything. The base's location has also been revealed. When Kiet Min heard the news, he remained surprisingly calm. He was wearing a pink suit underneath a white shirt. He looked like he was sleeping when he was woken up. It's okay. Just do whatever you need to do. Let them come find us. But you will be in danger. Those people are not ordinary. Kiet Min did not care about the warnings because his experiment was completed just in time. As he spoke, Min went to look at a red brain stored in a super large liquid container. Kiet Min stared at his achievements. Satisfied, let them witness this great moment. The birth of a completely new species of creature. At the same time, Zhang Tu walked out of the interrogation room. The people who witnessed the whole thing were frightened beyond words. Wherever Jiang Tu went, people automatically separated to make way for him, causing a stir of discussion. Even Tu Lang was extremely shocked. Unlike Dao's group leader, Lan Ky was very excited and laughed. Some people drifted away from him. Others stammered in doubt. He can control people's thoughts. Applause suddenly rang out. None other than the group of mechanical beings. He was full of praise for Jiang Tu, his formidable offspring. The first-year student is indeed Wai-Ho hidden. Dragon, the deputy team position was promised to you. If you say you can do it, you should follow me and apply. Jiang Tu followed without any doubt. Just asking what about that guy Dr. Kiet Min? Lan Ky seemed to sense something unusual. Looking at the distant backs of him and the group leader, the assistant standing next to him asked. Strangely, the deputy team position needs to be registered. Follow along and see? Lead Jiang Tu out of the school area. It started to rain outside when Jiang Tu followed the other man to an abandoned factory in the suburbs with no one in sight. He was curious, looked sideways and asked the group leader walking ahead. Where is this? Didn't you tell me to go register and then find Dr. Kiet Min? Hearing his question, the other person did not continue but asked in a cold voice. Zombie, when did you learn to speak human language? He was used to the fact that the people at the academy didn't find out that he was a non-human. Zhang Si asked suspiciously, Are you talking to me? ? Suddenly he turned around and raised his right hand, which was attached to the gun barrel, to shoot at Zhang Tu. I'm talking to you. The gun was very small, but it shot out a powerful red ray of light, aimed straight at Zhang Tu's head. And before he could react, he cut his head off his neck. The assistant quickly pushed Lan Ky out of the way of that red light boss. Lan Ky was horrified to realize that the gun was a hair gun, so hot that it could melt any substance it touched. She didn't expect this group leader to act so cruelly. He looked in the direction Zhang Tu had just stood, lowered the barrel of the gun that was still smoking. They are stupid, but I'm not? I don't know what the academy's guards are doing. There's something strange mixed in and I don't know what it is. Raised his hand again, where the gun barrel had previously been. The gun returned to his hard, metal-filled right hand, looking at the corpse's shape, which only remained from the neck down. He quipped that the zombie's weak point is its head. If you break it, you will lose the ability to act and retract your hand. The group leader let out the last sentence and was about to leave. I'm sorry, zombie. You shouldn't be here. As soon as he finished speaking, a white hand rushed forward to grab his face. Then a beam of light moved from one place to another as fast as lightning, rushing straight into a wall behind before stopping. That white hand had already grabbed the group leader's neck, pulling him straight into the wall. The group leader was in pain and tried to call the robots to attack Jong-tu. They received orders immediately, appearing quickly behind them, shooting laser beams from their eyes to destroy the person controlling their master. The robots' bullets are also a type of electromagnetic energy. Wherever they hit, they immediately explode and crumble. But for an object that can't even die after a nuclear explosion, these things are extremely trivial. From the fire, Jong-tu rushed out, grabbed a robot by the neck, and destroyed it. During the chaos and smoke, something jumped out. That person was none other than the group leader, who took advantage of the opportunity to jump out. Using his legs to stop himself from slipping, he looked into the smoke, watching in amazement as the zombie began to cut off the heads of his robot subordinates, letting them lose their heads along with him. Jong-si held a heavily damaged robot and walked out of the smoke. Needless to say, Lan Ky and her assistant were surprised. There was no head, but somehow, his lower body still rushed to the place where the group leader was still in shock. He quickly dodged his grab and then threw himself back, avoiding another blow that was fanning towards him. He also refused to lose, turning his right hand into a gun as fast as lightning. The power of this gun was even 10 times stronger than the one on the right. But Jong-tu quickly ducked and dodged. What are those pants? Why does he have no head but his movements are still so agile? He doesn't give him time to think. Jong-tu threw another blow from below. Even though he could avoid it, the group leader understood that confronting this guy directly was not a good way. So he retreated to keep his distance. While Lan Kai's assistant was scared, she was as calm as possible. He's starting to get serious. Seeing people starting to stand up, Lan Ky pulled his assistant away. These men rushed into a fight and it was just heaven and earth. We should stay away to avoid being implicated. A rustling sound rang out at the place where the head was missing. Then white patches swirled from the empty area to form another head for Jong-tu. He even took a deep breath as if to check if this head was working. Lan Kai's assistant opened his eyes wide in horror and showed her that the guy's head had grown back. Calmly raising his hand forward to seek peace, he proposed to talk instead of attacking each other. Glancing at Jong-tu with disdain, he grabbed his shirt, frowned and asked again, "Do you want to control my thoughts?" Unfortunately, there is none. Pulling the jacket and throwing it aside, it revealed a partially strong body. The rest of the left side was completely covered by machinery. He smirked. Model number 1. From the sky, a Batman-like robot heard the signal, speed to the called place, and approached the area where the group leader called. It split into 5 smaller pieces, scattered wildly but in the same direction as the group leader, then landed with a force that was not quite right on the ground. Jong-si didn't know what it was. Lan Ky and his assistant standing up there also looked puzzled. It turned out that the robots were broken into pieces to fuse together. Cover the group leader. The leader of the group is like a comic book version of I-Zone Man with an amazing body step by step towards the opponent. I'm a robot. I never negotiate with zombies. The robot rushed forward and kicked Jong-si hard on the chin, raising his voice in contempt. It's an honor for a living corpse to see my true self. Jong-tu leaned back and flew away. Before he could land, he saw the robot running forward to meet him. Just as he was turning over to touch his feet on the ground, the group leader responded first, rushing forward and throwing a hook punch right into Jong-si's stomach. Seeing his whole body completely bend over, seeing the zombie as strong as a dragon being punched and flying into the air like a motor, Lan Ky and his assistant saw this scene for the first time and could only stand there in amazement. The river robot chased after him, hitting Jong-tu's body while still flying in the air. Sometimes he kicked him in the stomach. Sometimes he punched his right cheek. Sometimes he nudged his chin. Sometimes he punched his left cheek. And finally he backed away a bit to gain momentum. The last blow sent Jiang-tu flying straight to the ground. Jiang-tu did not resist one bit. His whole body fell to the ground. So strong that it even bounced back up. The robot quickly landed right next to him, emotionlessly repeating his statement. Living corpses must die, bringing his arms up to cross over his red armored chest. His back arched a bit.